10 o'clock. I know we will probably have some more people hopping in, but out of respect for your time, I am going to go ahead and get started. Thank you guys so much for joining me on this Monday morning to talk a little bit about our technology application TEKS. This webinar was actually offered last week, so some of you might have already come and learned a little bit about it. So today might serve as an opportunity for more of a deep dive. But just I guess let me introduce myself real fast. I am Amanda Mask. I'm the coordinator of digital learning here in our district. And I'm super excited to talk to you about the technology applications TEKS. These are actually standards from the state of Texas that have been around for a very long time. And I know when I first stepped into this role of digital learning, I had no idea that these standards even existed. But what I'm excited to show and talk through today is that even though we have these standards, I by no means want it to feel like something else that we're expected to do. And I really hope that as you look at these standards, you'll see all the great things in relation to these standards that you're already doing in your classroom. I really believe as you look through these, you'll see those connections and the things that you're already doing to address them. And in some areas, how maybe you can make that one small tweak just to be more intentional to cover these technology standards as you are teaching your core content standards. So again, for anyone just hopping in, please make sure to drop your first and last name in the chat, and then we will go ahead and get started. Let me share my screen with you. So for today's learning, since we are learning about technology standards, give me a thumbs up if you can see my screen. Awesome. Okay. So we are talking about the technology application standards, and a part of these standards is actually learning new tools. So for today's learning, I'm going to ask you to engage in a new tool called FigJam. If you're new to FigJam, that is a-okay. And I also know that you are tuning in from very different spaces. You might be on your cell phone or in the car listening and not able to participate actively in this FigJam. I want you to know that's okay. But if you are able, I encourage you to dive in to test out this new tool and see how you can use it collaboratively, which using technology collaboratively is actually one of our technology standards. So here's our core values for today. Engagement, relationships, great teaching, and redefining success. Of these core values here in our district, we're really going to be diving deeply into great teaching, again, talking about our technology standards and how you can implement them and the great learning that you have every day in your classroom. Our norms for today, reminder to respect others, to practice active listening, maintain an open mind, and participate while being mindful of others. Again, I'm going to share a link to this board here in a minute. FigJam is a collaborative whiteboard, and I do ask you to participate if you're able, but if not, please listen and know that this tool and resource is here, and you can always come back later. And again, you matter, and I'm so thankful that you are joining us bright and early on this Monday morning. Here's our agenda for today. We're going to do our introductions, which I've already done. We're going to take just a minute to get to know FigJam, which is the tool that we're going to be using to really take a deep dive into our technology application TEKS. You guys are going to actually have an opportunity to dive into our technology TEKS. So these TEKS are K through 8th grade. If you are teaching at a high school or middle school, or well, I guess at a high school level, most of these standards are actually covered in our CTE courses. That's kind of where that vertical alignment comes in. But I am going to ask you to pick a grade level and just really think about that vertical alignment and how the work happening at our high school can also support these technology standards, and also just be aware of the skills that our kids come to your class having as a result of these technology standards. Then we're going to talk about how we can hack the TEKS. So just, again, making those small little tweaks to our lesson to be intentional in addressing these standards in our day-to-day. And then we'll have some time to reflect and share. If you guys have any questions at any point throughout our time together today, please take a minute to unmute yourself or use the chat. I'll be keeping a close eye on it as we go. So to get us started, I am going to grab the link to this FigJam. Again, FigJam is an endless whiteboard, so I know it might feel a little overwhelming as soon as you hop in here, but we're going to take some time just to get to know FigJam, to introduce ourselves to one another before we really dive into the content for today. So I just put a link in the chat. If you click on that link, it's going to ask you to sign in. If you'll sign in with your @g.coppellisd.com email account, so using that Google account, you'll be able to access FigJam, and each and every one of you should already have an account through the district. So again, I'm going to type that Gmail here, g.coppel ISD.com. That's how you'll sign in once you've clicked that link. If for some reason you're unable to participate and you're just listening along today, that is a-okay. Again, I'm hoping that you will learn a new tool that you can use in your classroom to help you address some of these technology TEKS, and then also have the opportunity to learn more about our technology TEKS. So once you're in, you should see this page. Something that I really love about FigJam is you can, whoops, wrong button. You can spotlight yourself. So I'm going to spotlight me. If you're unsure what you're doing, if you just hang tight, it's going to snap you to exactly where I'm at on this board, and you don't have to touch anything. You can just follow along. You should be seeing exactly what I'm seeing here. So to kick us off, I'm going to ask us to do some introductions. You should see this little photo booth Polaroid camera here. If you tap that red button, it's going to pull up your photo booth. You can take a quick picture. It'll give you a countdown, and look how cute. It's going to print out your Polaroid. Everything else on this FigJam is locked down, just so it's not moving around today, but the camera is not locked down. Otherwise, you wouldn't be able to use it. So I'm going to give everyone just a minute. Again, tap that little red button. Smile for the camera, and it should print you out a Polaroid photo that you can add over here to our introductions. For anyone who's still trying to log in, if you log in with your Gmail account, you should have access to this. Your Gmail account should be your username, like your Coppell ISD username, at g.coppellisd.com. Not seeing any pictures yet. Do you guys need another minute to play with the camera, or are we just following along? Either way is great. I just want to make sure if you need some more time to take your picture, you have the time to do that. Oh, here comes the picture. Cute. Once your picture prints, you can tap on it and move it over to the open space. All right, while you guys are playing with the camera, I'm going to go ahead and keep moving through. Again, if you don't get your Polaroid taken, that is a-okay. Hopefully you have learned a new tool today. Hank. Oh, I'm sorry you're unable to log in, Hank. Let me see if I can change the share settings real quick so you don't have to log in. Hank, if you put your last name in the chat, I can try to add you. Actually, let's get this link again and see if that works. And here, if I'm unable to get you added, Hank, H Cinnamon. Let me try here in just a minute. When you guys are doing some more exploring, I'm going to keep playing and see if I can't get this. Actually, look, can edit. I'm going to keep playing here in a minute, Hank. I'm so sorry, but for now, if you'll follow along, and we'll get that taken care of. All right, so I already showed you guys the spotlight. Again, at any point, if you get lost, if you just find my letter A and then tap follow, it'll pop you right to where I'm at on the screen so that you can follow along. You can do some really cool things inside of Figma. You can do stamps and something that they call emotes, which is essentially like some emojis. So I'm going to give you guys some time to practice that. To do that on your keyboard, if you'll tap on the letter E, it'll pull up this little wheel. Again, tap on the letter E, it pulls up a wheel. You have your emotes, so I can click one of these and tap, and it'll float little heart eyes across the screen. But for this activity, I'm going to ask you guys to click at the bottom, this stamp. And here are 4 or 3 different statements about the technology TEKS, and I just want you to take a minute to respond. I know all about the technology application TEKS. I know the technology application TEKS exist, or I did not know there were technology application TEKS. It is a-okay wherever you're at on your journey. Again, when I first stepped into this role, I had no idea that there were specific technology standards set by the state of Texas. So use the little stamper, give us a little heart, a thumbs up, a star, and just place a stamp where you're at in your journey today on those technology TEKS. Again, to do that, you're going to push the letter E. The stamper is at the bottom. You can grab whichever stamp you'd like. and then stamp the page. All right. Moving along, in addition to being able to do some stamps, you can also use sticky notes, and we'll be using some sticky notes later in our time after we have explored the technology standards. To use a sticky note, you can press the letter S, or across the bottom of your screen, you'll notice this toolbar. At the bottom of your screen, you'll see the sticky notes, and you can grab a sticky note from there. You can also change the color. Change mine to orange. I'm going to drop it in this box. I'm going to move mine out of my way of everybody. And then on your sticky note, if you'll just type your name, your role, and your favorite summer activity. And for those of you just hopping in and trying to use those sticky notes, you can press the letter S or find the sticky notes across the bottom toolbar. Traveling. Christina, I hope you traveled someplace fun this summer. Marley loves lots of travelers in the group. I love it. The furthest I traveled is to Grapevine Mills Mall to go to Peppa Pig World with my toddler. So I will vicariously live through all of you travelers. Vacation, enjoying not being a rush. Isn't that a beautiful thing about summer, Frankie? I agree. There's something so great about not having to rush that hot cup of coffee in the morning. Awesome. Alrighty, I'm going to hop to the next one. Again, right now we're just getting to know one another and getting familiar with the tools inside of FigJam before we dive into our learning. I love to do this with our kids too. Anytime you introduce them to the new tool, the first thing they want to do is click all the buttons, see what it can do. So this is a great way for them to get that exploration out of their system before you really try to dive into the learning. Otherwise, you're going to dive straight in the learning and they're still going to be focused on what does this button do and what can I do here? The next thing that we're going to look at is leaving a comment. So to leave a comment, if you tap the letter C, it's going to pull up this little comment bubble. And then if you tap on this text, I can actually leave a comment. And if you'll just let me know if you could visit any fictional location from a book or movie, where would you go? One thing that I do want to point out is once you have this comment bubble, notice that it's still leaving me in this comment mode. If you tap the select tool, which is this arrow in the bottom left of your toolbar, it'll take it back to select mode so you're not stuck in comment. A shortcut for that is also to push the letter V. It'll toggle you back to the other tool. So again, letter C to comment, you can select some text, leave your comment, and then go back to that select tool so you're ready to go. If you have any questions, if you'll drop them in the chat. Oh, Henry made it. I'm going to keep playing here in just a second, Henry, on those settings. All right. We are ready to take a dive into our actual standards for our actual agenda for the day. I hope that you enjoyed playing with some of those tools in FigJam. Again, at any point, if navigating FigJam feels too much, especially with us being in this virtual setting, please know that you can just listen, and this tool is here, and we're here to support you if you decide you'd like to leverage this in your classroom. So know that just actively listening is a-okay too, and feel free to leverage that chat as we go. So diving into our technology TEKS, I know we talked a little bit about this, but these are actual standards from the state of Texas that are outlined for our kindergarten through 8th grade learners. And these say what our kids need to know and be able to do with technology. while it's important to cover these because the state of Texas says we need to cover these, there are so many great things and skills that come from these technology standards, really thinking about digital literacy, digital citizenship. And if you notice here in this box next to the what are the technology TEKS, if you tap view, we've worked really hard to think about all the different skills, and I'm actually going to use this maximize so you can see this in a big screen. This inner circle is showing all the different skills that are important for today's learners to have. So that data literacy, critical thinking, active learning, creativity, and innovation, all these skills that we want our learners to walk out of once they've graduated Coppell ISD, these are skills that we know that we want them to have and that they need in their daily lives. So we've worked hard to connect these different skills. So if you pick one of the skills, it'll show you the different technology standards that it connects with. So more than covering the standard because the state of Texas says I need to cover it, know that as you are covering these TEKS in your content area, you are teaching important skills such as creativity and innovation. You are teaching critical thinking, and there's lots of different examples of that that can be explored here. So I love this example and just really the why these standards are so important beyond the state of Texas says that we need to cover those. So this will stay here. I encourage you to explore, to check this out. If you push that little arrow, it'll take you back to that main wheel so you can see those different skills and the way that they connect to these technology standards. All right, I'm going to keep moving down our page. Again, once you start scrolling, if you for some reason got lost, you can, and actually I'll stop spotlighting myself and re-spotlight real quick. So you can just find my letter A. Yours will say follow me. Mine says spotlight me. I'm going to spotlight me and it should snap everybody right to where I'm at. So these technology standards have been around for a really long time. They have actually been, the last adoption was back in 2012. And just this year, they've adopted some new standards that are to go into play for the 24-25 school year. And there has been a huge shift in some of these. So before the technology standards were actually broken down by grade bands, now we have standards for every single grade level. And there's some specific vocabulary that's changed that I want to just take a minute to point out to you before you have some time to explore on your own. So some vocabulary to be aware of, you'll notice things such as including versus such. So they have changed these statements. Including means that it must be mastered, whereas such as are examples of what might be mastered. So here we have an example. 1.3b says explore and collect many types of data, such as, and it's giving us some options here, preferences or daily routines of people, events, or objects. Whereas we have another standard, 1.8a, that says identify ways to keep a user account safe, including, so we're going to be very specific when it says including, we're going to talk about not sharing login information and logging off accounts and devices. And again, just looking at these two standards, I see this happening all the time in your classroom. When I walk into a first grade classroom, I can't tell you the number of times I hear educators encouraging our kids to log off and not share those passwords and not share information. So all of these things I know are already happening, whether we realize they were standards or not. Another big vocabulary change with these new standards is with assistance. So before, this verbiage wasn't really used. It was just that kids are expected to X, Y, and Z. Now you'll notice that it's kind of provided this scaffold. And as you really look at that vertical alignment, you'll see standards that say with assistance. And then maybe the fourth grade version of the fourth grade standard that aligns with this and that vertical alignment, maybe it doesn't mention with assistance. So they've been really intentional about providing that scaffolding of what we're introducing to kids and what they're able to do with assistance versus those things that they're able to do independently on their own. So you'll notice that as you're diving into these technology standards. And then the last piece is with or without technology, which I really love. So many of these skills are transferable, whether kids are using their iPad or a device, or whether they're just doing a physical activity. So as you're going through these standards, you will notice the verbiage with or without the use of technology. This specific one is all about computational thinking and thinking about sequences of code. And this could happen in the presence of using an iPad, maybe a specific application, or without technology when we're really thinking about the sequencing of events. So just keep that in mind as you dive in. Before I turn you loose into accessing the TEKS. Are there any questions so far about what the technology standards are or some of the vocabulary you can expect? As a reminder, if you have questions, please leverage that chat. But I would love for you guys just to take some time exploring in your specific grade level. Again, if you teach high school and there aren't any specific standards for you, I do encourage you to check out 8th grade or one of these other grade levels and really think about that vertical alignment and those progression of skills. But if you'll take a minute just to click on any one of these, I'm going to click on Kinder. It will pop open a spreadsheet and you'll get to make your own copy. So feel free to take all the notes you want. And here it'll show every strand as well as all of those technology application standards. So you've got several different strands, your computational thinking strand, creativity and innovation, data literacy, management and representation, digital citizenship, and practical technology concepts. All of these strands are present in the K through 8 standards. And I'd love for you guys just to take about 5 minutes to explore. Think about what you notice as you're going through these standards. If you have any questions, again, use the chat. I'm going to hop back over to Figma, set a quick timer, and give you guys some time to explore. All right, you guys, give me a thumbs up if you can hear my acoustic ambient music. Thank you. Anyone's tuning in a little late, I'm going to go ahead and drop the link to the Figma here again. You can access those standards. If you'd like me to send one in a private message, a specific grade level to you specifically, I'm happy to do that as well. Got just about another minute. And again, we will circle back to this and you'll have some more time to explore here in a moment, but just that initial exploration, about 1 minute left. All right, there's our timer for that first minute. I'm going to go ahead and go to the right just a little bit into this next box. Scroll back up to the top. Again, if you're following me, just hang tight. Trying to move slow in case anyone's gets motion sick. Okay, so for the next piece of our time together, now that you've had a moment to explore these technology TEKS, whether this was your first time exploring or you've already known that these existed and have been using them in your classroom, I want you guys to have a minute to think about any ahas that you had. There's some great, where'd it go? Um, if you click on any one of these, so if you explored seventh grade, if you click on seventh grade, it'll take you to the seventh grade box. I just want you to think about those natural connections and where you see these standards fitting, whether it's math, science, ELAR, and social studies. Something the digital learning coach team's been working hard on is thinking about all of these technology application TEKs and how they can live inside of the content that we're already teaching and the things that we're already doing in our classroom. So it doesn't feel like something else. And so they don't stand in isolation. And while there might be one or two that are hard to tie into our content standards, many of these are everyday conversations that you're having with your kids. Like I know, for example, one of those is organization of files. We talk often with our kids about how to organize that binder that they have in their classroom and what we want that to look like so that they can easily find data and information and resources. And I know that you guys are doing the same thing when it comes to digital files. Maybe your kids are taking notes in Notability and you're thinking about how can I support my kids in organizing these files so they can find that. So many of these conversations are transferable and also are very present in those technology TEKs. So I want you guys to think about, where do you see this fitting in to the things that you're already doing in your classroom? So for this, if you'll find whichever box of TEKs you were exploring, maybe is multiple, that is a-okay to scroll from one to the other. But again, if you'll click that sticky note, it's at the bottom of your toolbar, or as a reminder, you can use the letter S as a shortcut to get the sticky note to pull up, and just add any thoughts or ideas that you have. What ahas did you have, and where do you see these fitting into your content area standards? You just about, let's see, let's take 4 minutes to do that. Again, as you're going through, if you have questions, please don't hesitate to use the chat. Are you guys able to type on the sticky notes once you place them? Because I locked this board. Okay, I'm going to unlock this board, but I'm also going to warn you that it might start moving around if you accidentally grab the board, and that is a-okay. If you, for some reason, you move the board, Command Z will undo and you can put things back in their space. Let's see if that does the trick. I think that should allow you to do what you need to. I'm so sorry about that. Yeah, there we go. Sorry about that. If you're trying to zoom in and out of boxes, you can pinch your fingers together to zoom in, pull them apart to zoom out on your trackpad as you navigate the board. Start looking at some of the ideas you guys are adding while you keep thinking. Right. If you'll put in the chat how many minutes you'd like to continue thinking about how some of those technology application TEKS can tie to your content standards. Either show me on your hands or put in the chat. See some great thinking happening here. I don't want to cut you off too soon. Did anyone have a similar aha to me when I was like, oh, a lot of these do directly tie to some of our content standards, or these are, maybe I didn't even know the technology application TEKS existed, but these are things that I do daily in my classroom. Were there any ahas? If so, feel free to use the chat to share some of those. All right, as you wrap up your thoughts on this TEKS exploration, we're going to go ahead and go to this next piece, which is all about how we can hack the TEKS. So there's some great resources here. The first is, I'm going to copy this template for you guys. At the top, we have several different templates. There's a Google template, a Pages template, as well as a PDF template. I bet because I locked it. I was trying to make things not move around. I locked too many things. I'm not able to get it. Okay, I'm going to grab the link to that and I'll throw that in the chat. Is anyone able to access the link for the planning doc? Oh, different. Let me pull it real fast here. I'm going to stop sharing my screen for just a minute so I can go into Drive and get this for you guys. But as you're doing that, you can see some examples there on the Figma. Every time I try to talk and type at the same time, I realize how terrible I am at talking and typing at the same time. Here we go. Sorry, guys, here it is. Grab the link for you and I'll throw it in the chat. Did anyone have any success getting it to open in Google? The link work for you guys? No, me neither. That's okay. I've got this right here. Throwing it in the chat now. Let me add the copy. All right, so I just put in the chat. This will force you a copy, and I'll also get that link updated on the Figma as well. But here's a really great resource that you can use as you're thinking about how you can take those standards, the technology application standards, as well as your content standards, and think about how you might be able to make maybe even just some very small tweaks to be intentional in embedding them in your content area. Okay. See if it'll let me update it. Unlock. Doesn't like me. I'm going to put the link up here on a sticky note so you can get it. Actually, here it is. Ta-da. Okay. So here's an orange sticky note. I'm going to add that Google link for anyone who needs to access it. And let me change it real fast to copy so it'll force you your own copy. Oh, struggling. Let's grab it from over here. Thank you guys so much for your patience. There we go. Okay, there's now an orange sticky note with a link so you can get your own copy. But just to kind of give you an idea of how this document's going to work, there's this nice little flow chart over here on the left-hand side of the screen if you're following along. Thank you. It's thinking really, really hard about opening this flow chart. That's okay. But essentially what you're going to do first is identify your content objectives. So thinking again about those core content standards and whatever process you use to really unpack those standards. In this specific example, we highlighted our verbs, and then we were really thinking about that process and outcome learning objective within that standard. Once you've done that, reflect on, again, I know you guys are doing amazing things each and every day in your classroom. So think of any past instruction that you've already had. What activities have you already done? And in what ways? Honestly, many of them probably address some of these technology application TEKS. But think about how you usually teach this. And how you assess your learners. There's a space for you to reflect on what that looks like in your classroom. The next piece is to explore and connect. So again, thinking about some of those sticky notes that you just added on the board to the left, think about those connections that you can make. Look at the strands that mirror the process or skills needed to perform, and then do the same kind of thing. Look for those verbs or the process and outcome standards, and think about how you can make that connection between your content standards and the technology application TEKS. There's a box for you to do that, explore and connect. The next piece is to integrate and collaborate. So think about ways that you can integrate technology into your instruction. So maybe it's a tool or resource. For example, many of those technology TEKS talk about our learners collaborating using technology. Today, we are collaborating together, sharing ideas using FigJam to accomplish our goal, our learning goal, which is to understand the technology application TEKS and think about how you can be intentional in using them in your classroom and how they connect to our core content standards. So there's a space to make that, to think about how you can integrate and collaborate. And that last piece is to reflect and think about if both goals of the learning objective were met, not just that technology application TEKS, not just that content TEKS, but how that looks and if you were able to effectively address and meet both of those learning objectives. So this is a great document just to kind of walk you through a thought process of how you might be able to be intentional in hacking your instruction to include those technology application TEKS. So I hope everyone was able to make a copy. I also have the document up here that I'm going to add to the top for anybody. So again, I know that that link wasn't working. I'm going to get that fixed. But if you use the orange sticky note, you can get your own copy of the document there. You can also view it here at the top, and I'm going to work on getting that guy fixed. I'm going to give you guys just another 3 or 4 minutes to take a look at this document, to ask any questions you might have, or share any ideas you have. So if you have any ideas, thoughts, questions, please put those in the chat. If not, I encourage you to check out some of these examples and maybe even start trying to fill out your own planning document for back over here. Many of you had great ideas. So maybe thinking about identify and analyze how technology impacts different communities. We tied that to science standard. I don't know what grade level this is. A second grade science standard. So maybe use some of these examples that are ideas you started over here on the TEKS exploration and start putting them into your hacking instruction with technology application TEKS planning document. Now, as you are exploring, if you're looking at these examples, just know that the documents in here don't scroll. The way that they've embedded is you'll see the first page at the top, followed by the second page, and then the third page. I know I spent quite a while trying to get these documents to scroll when I was first exploring FigJam. So just know if you're looking for that whole document, it's almost like screenshots of the entire document, if you will. So hopefully that helps as you're looking at some of these examples and navigating. So as you guys are thinking about this, just remember that your learning coaches are here to support you. We're excited to support you and would love to think about those core content standards and also those technology application TEKS and really thinking about how we can integrate them effectively, because we know that the best learning doesn't live in isolation, right? It's not just about our kids using technology, but really thinking about how we're using technology meaningfully to impact instruction. So by marrying those core content objectives with our technology application TEKS, we can really model the effective use of technology as a part of the learning process. As we get close to wrapping up our time together today, you're going to have the opportunity to use some of the new things that you have learned how to do inside of FigJam to reflect and share any ideas you have for the classroom. So here in the next little box to the right, and here I can stop and then I'll grab everybody again in case you're not sure where I'm at. Over here, you'll see 3 different spaces. The first space is what I learned. Reflect on what you learned during the session, share any key takeaways, insights, or new knowledge you gained. Again, you've got a marker tool if you'd like to write. My go-to is usually these sticky notes. You also have text at the bottom if you'd just like to add a text box. If you see something that someone else shares that really resonates with you, don't forget you can use the stamp at the bottom or press that letter E to grab a stamper and to like some of those things that our other colleagues have shared as a reflection from today's learning. So you're going to share what you learned. Lesson integration. So think about those ideas you have for incorporating standards into your classroom. The last thing we're going to ask you to share is in this blue box. What lingering questions might you have as a result of today's session? Maybe you still have some questions about the technology application TEKS. Maybe you have questions about how they connect to some of those key skills that we want learners to have. Or maybe your question is related to FigJam and how you could use this in your classroom. Give you guys about 4 minutes. Actually, let's do 3 minutes to do this reflection and just think through these 3 things: what you learned, lesson integration ideas, and any questions you may still have. Again, the chat is open. Feel free to leverage the chat. Let me know if you need anything at all. These are becoming FigJam masters. About a minute and a half left to finish capturing your thoughts. Again, if you're done, feel free to press the E button and leave some stamps for some other people's thoughts. I'm also going to use the comment to leave some comments myself. Everyone can see how bad my typing is as I'm sharing my screen and misspelling things. All righty, that is our time. But of course, feel free to stay on the FigJam and finish adding any additional thoughts that you had. I'm going to hop over here real fast to these questions to see if there's anything I can address before I hop off. Is there a bank of lessons already developed? So to answer that question, the DLCs are working really hard on that bank and ensuring that we get something out to you guys here shortly with some resources and lessons already developed that are in alignment with our technology application TEKS. We're also doing some partnership with our curriculum directors to embed these into the curriculum documents. Also, I saw some questions and thoughts about FigJam. If your question is more to FigJam specifically, they also have a really great template library. We ran a webinar earlier last week on FigJam and how to use it. I'm going to be publishing that in PowerSchool PL, so you can watch it and complete a reflection form to get flex credit. So I definitely encourage you to do that if you're interested in learning more about FigJam. But for any of your technology, digital learning needs, just remember your learning coaches are here. We're happy to support, whether it's diving deeper in these technology application teaks, learning more about FigJam or other district tools and resources. But I really thank you guys. I want to be respectful of your time. It is 10:50. Thank you guys so much for joining us today. I'll stay back for a few minutes if anyone has any additional questions. As a reminder, if you haven't dropped your first and last name in that chat and your name is different from the one you logged in with, please make sure to do that so we can give you flex credit for attending today's session. I hope to see you all on another webinar later this week. And if not, I hope you really enjoy the rest of your summer and we will see you soon. Thanks for tuning in today. All right, if there's no more questions, I'm going to go ahead and end this call. Again, thank you all so much for joining. Have a great summer and we'll see you soon.